Good morning, and thank you everyone for taking time to join us in this particular webinar. I will be your host today, Lisa Cherono, in charge of sales and marketing at Yale Bridges. So Yale Bridges is a cybersecurity and risk management company in partnership and in collaboration with our partners in Uganda. So we have the presence of one of our partners, Jerome Okot, who will be our moderator today. We also have one of our clients from Madison Group, who will also be amongst the panelists. And we are happy to have Nonso all the way addressing the issues on cybersecurity. So should you have any questions towards the panelists, please drop your question on the chat section and we'll be sure to address them. Jerome, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And thank you once again for putting this webinar together. I feel once again delighted to be a part of this webinar, and more so, more than just an attendee, but now as a moderator. So I'm delighted also to be sharing the panel with Mr. Isaac Marungu and Mr. Nonso, abbreviating just to make it easy. Yes, I'll invite the two gentlemen to introduce themselves briefly, after which we will set the ball rolling. So, well, I'll start with Mr. Nonso.
Thank you, Jerome. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this amazing webinar. My name is Nonso Chide. I'm a cybersecurity specialist and a co-founder of Alton Limited, Kenya, a company that deals with cybersecurity, information security, and just IT support. We have a different range of other services, but mostly we focus on cybersecurity and IT support. I have vast experience in this field, and after I decided to, use my experience that I've learned from the workforce to impact more lives. And currently we are doing as much as we can to change the narrative in cybersecurity in Africa. But we're setting up first of all with Kenya, because you just have to love Kenya. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share with you my thoughts, my ideas, and what's going on around the world in cybersecurity, but most importantly, with regards to the topic, threat intelligence and risk management. I'm really excited to be here to share with you guys what I know about it, talk about what I know, as well as learn from my co-panelists as well. So thank you all for having us, and thank you for being here as well. Back to you, Jerome.
Thank you very much for your elaborate introduction. I'm sure about now the listeners or the attendees of the webinar have a fair idea about yourself. Then we'll have another gentleman, Mr. Isaac, please, if you may introduce yourself.
Good morning, my name is Isaac Murugu. I am a risk management specialist. I work with Madison Group Limited in the risk and compliance department. I have experience, or rather, I have had opportunities to carry audits, both assurance and consultative roles for information systems, networks in the financial services sector, just like where I am right now, that is the insurance and fund management. I am also a specialist in internal audit and quality management. In today's session, the topic is quite interesting. We are going to marry two aspects. One, enterprise risk management, integrating it, or rather more like expanding its role and taking its perspective into the cyberspace, where we are looking at threat intelligence. And this just shows how the cyber security management is becoming an integral part of risk management, and it's no longer just a technical aspect of information security. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Isaac, for your introduction. And yeah, people now know enough about, I mean, at least sufficient information about you. So like I see Lisa is sharing links to your bios and profiles so people can ask even more questions beyond the webinar. We'll delve straight into the discussion. Now, cybersecurity until recently has given people a rude awakening that, hey, every aspect of life, almost of technology, let's say of life, right, has to do with security, yeah? Because there's a lot of penetration of technology among the people. Therefore, as the population is getting to use more and more of this technology, the hackers are getting smarter, and therefore the threats are also increasing, and that's the ever-evolving threat landscape. So I want to come down to Mr. Nonso, just before we get into a couple of other questions, but to give us a feel of the discussion. If you may, Mr. Nonso, give us a very brief definition to the regular attendee right here about what threat intelligence is with respect to security.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you much again for that, Jerome. So, yeah, as Jerome has just said, from a normal user's perspective, that's a bit interesting, because I'd say right now in cybersecurity, I do not think, correct me if I'm wrong though, but I do not think there is a normal user in cybersecurity, because right now everybody needs to be aware of what's going on in cybersecurity space. Everyone, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, you need to be aware of what's going on, especially now with coronavirus and working from home, like most people are doing. It's really important for you to know what's going on, or for you to be aware of all these things. So threat intelligence basically, for as simple as I can put it, is information about how threat actors carry out cyber attacks, cyber events, and how you collect these sources, how the sources are basically collected. It's more like you have two words there: threat and you have intelligence. What's a threat and what's intelligence? So if you combine these two words together, you actually you get more info. If you combine these information together, you just get information about how threat actors attack your systems, attack your networks. When I say they attack, I don't mean actively attack, but the ways they can actually go about attacking your systems and your network. And then it's up to you now, as a cybersecurity specialist, a cybersecurity expert, or just a normal person, if you can, to say, okay, fine, these are how they're going out about these agendas. But before you come down to that, you need to be able to identify, how they go about it, what are their sources, and what are the techniques and ideas they use to carry out their attacks. So by the time you get all this information, you're basically collecting intelligence from your threat actors. Back to you, Jerome.
Thank you very much, Nana. Thank you very much for that. I think it's quite clear. As much as a lot is going on, there's threats, you need to know where they're coming from and who is orchestrating them.
Yeah.
I think I have a clear understanding of this. And over to you, Isaac. If you may, as a risk expert, tell us, what is this thing called risk management? I know there's a lot of risks out there, but we need to manage them. So what is risk management? And maybe thereafter, you just help me distinguish between threat intelligence and risk management. Mr. Isaac.
Thank you, Jerome. When you talk about risk management, what probably comes to you, right to your mind, is what is risk? And just in today's perspective of threat intelligence, we are looking at a definition. Just risk management would be the process of identifying the threat risks that we have and coming up with plans and actions to manage these threats, more specifically the cyber threats. So risk management is just identifying the threats that we are exposed to as a business, and then as either as management or at any level in the interaction with our systems, come up with plans and actions to ensure that we manage or rather we reduce or minimize the impacts of those threats on our business and systems. Moving on to differentiating between threat intelligence and risk management. Threat intelligence, as been defined by my colleague, is that ideally, what are the ways of getting to know before or in time before we are hit? So when you talk about risk management being the process of identifying risks, then threat intelligence becomes an integral part of managing cyber risks. So we are looking at the process of identification of risks, and the way we identify risks is based on either our previous experience, the experience of our peers or other industry players. So when threat intelligence is brought on board, then the identification of risks becomes easier and timely, and we are able to cover ideally all aspects, rather all areas of exposure. So once we have all the intelligence that we need, we have all the information that we need about our cyber risk universe, then management and the leadership of the businesses are able to make the right decisions, take the right actions to ensure that the threats or the impact of these threats are managed or minimized. Over to you, Jerome.
Thank you very much, Isaac. That is quite cool. And as we go along with this discussion, I see now more than ever, even much clearer, that indeed threat intelligence and risk management are very, very closely related. I mean, your risk profile, I think, also relies heavily on the threat landscape. And the reverse is also true. You need the threat landscape to better prepare for the risks. Yes, so I'll move on quickly to Mr. Nonso. Is threat intelligence and risk management better done by humans or machines? Very recently, I was listening to a lady called Leslie Carhart. Her handle is Hack Pancakes. She says the attacks that are orchestrated on us done by humans, and therefore, because they're done by humans, the solution should also come from humans. What's your take on this, Nonso? Do you think threat intelligence and risk management is better done by humans or machines with AI and machine learning going on?
All right. So, like I had mentioned earlier, and like Isaac had also stepped in to comment on two things on threat intelligence and risk management. So, to answer your question, Jerome, I'll have to go back a bit. And when I say that, I mean, when we look at threat intelligence and how you gather this intelligence, basically, from your environment, what are the sources? What are some of these sources you use? You could use open source intelligence, you could use social media intelligence, or technical intelligence, and yeah, you could use these three sources basically to gather information about your environment, about your threat actors, about what's going on. And when you're using these sources, what is the one thing you're going to get? Data. Now, data on the other side, on the other hand, you could get a whole lot of data from these sources. And can a human, sift through all those data? it's going to be pretty difficult. Actually, most of the tools you're going to use are going to be automated. You have to run scripts, you have to run some kind of math function in them. But basically, it's going to be a lot of data for one person to process. You may get some more people to actually do it. But when you actually come in, when you bring in machines, what machines do is they simplify these data for you. They make it much more easier. They make the processing faster for you. That's what I was looking for. They make the work much more faster. So I will not. I'm not moving to the part. I'm not going to the side that it's machines are much better at this, but they actually help simplify or make lives easier for us. Now, of course, after the whole data has been collected and analyzed, it's now up to the humans to actually make up their decision. Of course, the machine or the programs the programs basically will give you their own results and recommendations based on past analysis, which humans also must have fed into the system. So to answer your question, Jerome, threat intelligence and risk management basically is a 50-50 affair. The humans have their own part to play in it, as well as the machines, because if you only leave it to the humans, I think we'll be resolving threats by the time they're already done, because we're still analyzing the data, and this threat already will be ongoing, and if not already done, before we come up with and say, okay, fine, we've already identified a potential threat. It's already done. It will no longer be a potential threat, but a threat that has already happened. And of course, we all know what happens. When a threat happens, there will be loss of value, there will be loss of image, there will be loss of reputation, and also don't forget financial and economic losses. So I would say it's a 50-50 relationship.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for this. And my observation here is threat intelligence involves a lot of data processing and collection, while the risk involves a lot of decision-making processes. So just like you said, the 50-50, I think threat intelligence through threat maps and threat monitors would really use capabilities of artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's my take. While the risk management would heavily rely on the people to look at this data gathered and make the decision.
Exactly.
But as we move on, Mr. Isaac, very interestingly though, as we carry on, are there different ways of approaching threat intelligence? I've already thrown in my towel on the humans and preferred it for the technology. What are the types of threat intelligence, and how would we, what are the ways that would approach threat intelligence?
Thank you, Jerome. When we look at, we can look at the various ways of approaching threat intelligence, and it's important to note that the different ways or other approaches will be dependent on the type of the organization, maybe the level of the organization, and either the resources the organization has. And when I say that it depends, it doesn't mean that there should be compromises. Just because maybe one organization is of a smaller size and the other one has a bigger size and has more resources. The types of approach that we can use, whether just depending on the type of the organization that we are looking at, what is the organization's strategy? And does the organization's strategic objectives get impacted by cyber threats? And once the organization has a strategy, it needs to come up with a strategic objective, or rather a cyber security strategy, which should be able to define one aspect of, or rather the aspect of threat intelligence as one of the ways, or rather one of the ways of managing their cyber security risk. And in the strategy, um, the organization needs to define what is our cybersecurity risk universe. What are the sources of our threats? Is it because of the infrastructure we have? Is it because of the vendors that we are using, the technologies we have? And then they can move on to the tactical aspect. Again, based on the kind of systems the organization has, the kind of infrastructure it has, then at that point, it can come up with a customized intelligence tools that fits the organization's business or other systems infrastructure. Then the organization needs to come up with technical capabilities. What is needed, or rather what does the organization's systems need? What special skills, especially when it comes to cybersecurity management skills? Are our security teams well equipped in terms of skills and competencies? Then we can also look at the operationalization. What are the operations of that particular organization? We are looking at people, we are looking at the processes, we are looking at the systems. These threat intelligence tools, where are they going to be placed? Are they like we are going to, we can look at a wide spectrum of areas of exposure, or rather where we are, or where the organization could be exposed. So the different approaches really depends with the organization, but at the end of the day, management, the persons or other individuals charged with the responsibility of managing cyber risk really needs to understand and come up or rather implement the appropriate cyber or other threat intelligence tools. Over to you, Jerome.
Great. Thank you very much, Isaac, for that deliberation. I know I could have asked in a situation where I want an ideal environment, but still you've split it very well. It entirely depends on the organization most times, and also the resources that they have at hand. Now, moving on to you, Mr. Nonto, as I'm currently very well aware you're in Germany and on your freelance work, and you're present on the West Africa, but also in Kenya. Now, I am very curious to know, because of these, I mean, you've probably interacted fairly well on the African continent. So in Africa generally, do we need a state-operated threat intelligence or risk management center, or industry-based or company-based centers? What do you think really works ideally for Africa?
That's a good question. I'm just thinking of how we put it. So, having a threat intelligence, a state-operated threat intelligence or risk management center, it's let's look at it from this point of view. A country or states, let's just put it as a country. Let's not go down to states. A country basically is like a company that's being run by the CEO, shareholders, and other board members and thereabouts, and then you have the employees. And if you break that down to a normal company, you have the normal, to a country, you have that as the CEO being the president, the stakeholders being the governors, the shareholders and the rest about, and then normal employees being the normal citizens. Now, it would be safe to say, as every state, a state or a country should have their own threat intelligence or management center, threat intelligence center, like a place where they manage and collect, this threat intelligence basically from intel from, yes. And so should companies, because a state on its own, states have their own secrets. They have their own what they're protecting. So saying that should they have, I think that is I'll say that's an understatement, because every state should have its own threat intelligence. Likewise, companies, then these companies should also be able to gather intel or feed from the state with regards to attacks that are, with regards to intelligence, the state has also gathered to also help them build their own intelligence and keep themselves ready and equipped with as much as they can, as much protection and prevention as much as they can. Now, with regards to Africa, there is this notion that, like I remembered in 2018 or 2017, correct me if I'm wrong, when the AU, when they discovered that in the AU in Ethiopia, that there was a large amount of data being left and leaving the data centers, especially at night around 2 a.m. And it was being taken out to a particular server somewhere in Asia. I don't want to call names here because it was denied. However, if we actually had our own information in order, or our own intelligence in order, which I think we do, but probably it's not as well advanced as, or maybe it is, I don't know, I have never done any contractual work for the state or the government. But if we do have state-of-the-art intel systems, I do not think that kind of information, that kind of successful attack, because that definitely was successful, would have actually gone unnoticed. So it is really, really crucial for, for every state to have their own threat intelligence, because this way they get to keep what they hold, they get to keep the information about their citizens. They get to keep information about, government, whatever it is, government secrets. They get to keep they get to keep their information very, very safe and protected. And also, they're doing a great deal to the country, and also to companies that have their presence in those states. So to answer your question, I'll say yes, it is really, really important to have it, and every state should have it. Hope that answered the question, Jerome.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy, for the deliberation. Yeah, I know when it comes to involving a state machinery, there is a lot of also politics in play, yeah? But I think ideally, nation-owned or state-owned machinery managing the threat intelligence is good. My own take, I think, should be that every state should have their machinery, but also at industry level, it would be good to have companies subscribing to an umbrella of their industry, gathering the threat intelligence. Because when you have a large pool of contributors of data to this threat pool, I think it becomes easier to collaboratively come up with mitigation measures. That's, well, what I think. I don't know about Isaac. From your experience at the Madison Group and what you've been dealing with in the space, in the recent past, we've seen a couple of state-sponsored attacks. I don't know how you're experiencing it in the insurance sector. What are your thoughts about it, considering that Africa is playing, as they say, catch up?
Jerome, I think my observations is that we can't really say that we are playing well. Of course, we will appear to play catch up, but I would just use the analogy of the forest and the monkeys. The US, or rather the first world and Africa, when it comes to cybersecurity, I think the cyber security bad boys are the same monkeys, probably different forests. Yes. So and from the whether organizations or companies or industries should establish their own resources or their own threat intelligence centers. I think there is no harm in having intelligence or information from various sources, because the challenge with probably relying with just one point, or rather with just one center that is managed by a third party that you have no control over, is that you clearly do not have the privileges of managing your risks based on your own internal risk appetite. So I would say that organizations should try as much as possible and just tap into different sources of resources and intelligence sources. And for example, in the financial services sector, we can just say that probably in the banking sector we have the CBK. Under the CBK we have probably a certain organization or a certain department that deals with a particular type of threat, but it might not cover every other aspect, because we've seen individual organizations being attacked as individuals, and the perpetration did not affect the wider networks. So yeah, it's good to have an umbrella intelligence center, but each company, or rather each organization, can go ahead and try as much as possible and establish their own centers, regardless of the sizes. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Isaac, for that catch up on what really needs to be done. Mr. Nonso, again, I'm going to bring it up from the angle of you, first of all, having propagated your own company and also still being able to carry out your freelance activities and also across borders and all of that stuff. Any guiding laws that you know, guidelines or policies that would help a company set up a threat intelligence or risk management center? And before even we get to that, do you have one for the company that you set up in Kenya?
I can see we're really out. We're really out of it. All right. So first things first. My company, first of all, yes, you're right. I'm actually freelancing here in Germany. I'm actually freelancing here in Germany because circumstances made me find myself in Germany and work as well. However, one thing I did not mention at the beginning of this webinar was my company is a virtual company. It actually started before this work from home began, and that need came about due to where I previously worked at. I was pushing. I always had this motion that IT people can work from anywhere. Just give us our laptop, or not give us, we have our laptop, and give us internet, and we can work from anywhere. And the company said, no, we want to see you 8 to 5 or 8 to 7 if possible even. And I mean, I wasn't up for it because I said, look, everything can be done virtually, and give me a laptop and give me access, or not access, but give me permission, and I can access what I should access. Understand? And that was why my company was founded, giving anybody who has specific skill sets to be able to work remotely. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be at your house, coffee shop, on the other side of the world, without ever meeting you, but it's virtual. So to answer your question now, now you're there to give you, because I've gotten questions like, so how are you working? How is it happening? So that's I just want to give you a clearer picture. So it's basically virtual. You have a laptop and you have internet. Well, welcome aboard. And you meet
can deliver. Okay.
And you meet the specific skill set we need. Yes, welcome aboard. and that's about it. So, any guiding laws, guidelines, policies that will help a company set up threat intelligence or risk management. My own company basically right now is around two years old, so we're still building up slowly. But with regards to guidance and policies, I can always say all companies need that. We all need it. We all need guidelines and we all need policies, definitely. Now, some people you could always look out, or there's this notion that you could always borrow from a different company, what they are doing, how they're doing it, what they faced, how their challenges, and how it was resolved. You could always borrow it. But remember one thing, no two companies are the same. Facebook and Twitter are social media companies, but they operate in the same area and everything, but their threats aren't very, very identical. They have the same similar objectives. They operate in the same social media space, but they are not. I mean, their attacks or whatever their attacks are basically different. I mean, you could see some similarities, but their culture is definitely different. Now, however, that being said, companies can actually borrow some ideas, bounce off one or two ideas of, okay, is this what's going on? Is this this is the threat landscape? How did you solve this problem? How did you challenge it? How did you come up with your threat intelligence? How did you come up with your, how do you come up with your guidelines and your policies? But it all comes down to your company's culture and the willingness to accept risk and the willingness to combat this risk, basically, and how your company actually welcomes risk. Is it something that it takes seriously, or is it? I saw this post the other day. It made me laugh so hard that before a risk gets to, before a threat, before an attack gets to your company, you're telling the CISOs, you're telling the CEOs, telling the directors, look, we need to up our security centers. We need to up so many things now. We need to up our firewall. We need to up our security monitoring tools. And they tell you, no, we only give you 1,000 shillings. But after the event has happened, they are willing to give you 1,000,000 shillings, just like that.
Yep.
To sum up, they are basically guidelines that is set out there by NIST. You could look it up. I think it's a guide for conducting risk assessment. It gives you a body, like a framework for you to follow, and then for you to add, yours as well, to add your own cultural, how your company operates, basically, how your company acts to this situation with other employees. It gives you the opportunity to also add for yourself. So you could actually look at it. You can actually go on to NIST for anybody who's interested. You can actually go to NIST. Let me see. I think it's NIST SP 800-30, which provides a guideline for conducting risk assessments. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think fair enough. For somebody out there who is struggling, what Nonso brings out very clearly is there is a couple of frameworks and guidelines out there, right from the ISO, the 27,000. The whole of the 27,000 block is for cybersecurity, information, and all of that stuff. So you can pick a couple of guidelines from there, and also from the NIST in Uganda. I have the NIST, the National Information Security Framework, and but all of these are borrowed from already existing frameworks. So I think these can also be very helpful. So moving on, Ms. Isaac, I know there is a couple of people listening in or attending this webinar who are very curious. How do you become somebody in charge of threat intelligence or risk management guy? Or what is that position? What is the role, and what qualification would one need? I have a couple of people, even interesting colleagues from Uganda who are listening in and attending. So yeah, it would be nice to guide someone's career path. What are these qualifications and what are these roles that somebody can get?
All right, Jerome. The career around, rather the career path for risk management. Rather in a nutshell, what I can say is that based on what field you're in, because risk management can be wide. So and the field has been growing wide by the day. For example, risk management in banks, for instance, sometimes you might find that it's an aspect of operations. You go to other industries and realize that the aspect of risk management is an independent role. In the recent years, we've found more risk category specific. For example, you hear people talk about operational risk management. We have specialists who are who have specialized in operational risk management. We have financial risk managers. We do have cyber risk managers. But basically, when you talk about the qualifications, they are internationally accepted qualifications, or rather internationally recognized from ISACA. That is the one that provides the CISA exams and the CGIT and the CIRISC. So there is one particular one, there is a qualification called CIRISC. It is offered by ISACA. There is another qualification that is offered by Institute of Internal Auditors. It is called CRMA. Then there is the Institute of Risk Management. The Institute of Risk Management has an array of certifications, certificates, and diplomas. So the Institute of Risk Management also offers diplomas and a certificate in risk management. The other aspects, because in the recent years there have been developments of syllabuses and curriculum for risk managers. In the previous years, probably pre-2000, you'd find that risk management was mostly maybe an aspect that was mostly left to the internal auditors. So you realize that the personnel who are in enterprise risk management are probably people who have been in audit and all that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people must have followed that career path. I think up to that, I think that provides just a nutshell on what kind of qualifications that would be required for threat intelligence. Rather skills and competencies in the cyber space. For instance, you realize that ISACA is offering courses, or rather qualification or certifications on cybersecurity. If you go to the higher aim, the Institute of Risk Management, you also find that they also have another certification for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Isaac. What I pick out from whatever, it doesn't matter my profession, I can always take on a certification that then qualifies me to go ahead and perform these amazing pieces of magic. Huh?
Yes.
Great. Moving on.
I have a question, yeah? I don't know if as a panelist, am I allowed to ask a question to Isaac?
Yes.
I think it's okay if it's within the heat of the moment. Yeah.
All right. I definitely do know that in this field of ours, most employees, most companies will ask you for one or two, if not as many certifications as you have, before they deem you qualified enough to give you that position, or to consider you for that position, I mean. So, do you feel, I mean, because the reason I know the answer already, but this is a kind of an argument that keeps popping up from time to time. Do you feel certifications is a good way to measure one's knowledge on, for example, like this topic is talking about risk management and threat intelligence? Do you think certification is a good way to measure it?
Thank you, Nonso. If I may respond, I think qualifications or rather certifications are just a documented way of demonstrating skill, but they are never the full proof that someone is actually competent to actually perform the tasks that are required, more specifically the technical aspects, especially the ones on threat management and cyber risk management. So yes, qualifications are good to be seen, and they demonstrate that you've actually been either tested or demonstrated your knowledge somewhere. But the hands-on competencies, the skills, I think those ones have to be tested or to be examined separately.
Yeah, and I totally want to agree with you, Isaac, on that. I've met a couple of people who have this ballistic acronyms before their actual names, and when you give them a simple remote audit to execute, they start to sweat. So yeah, it's very important to know that practical skill is very, very important. We have a new wave of change right now, especially post-COVID, with the very steep learning curve that has happened. Nobody cares about all these papers now. All somebody cares is whether or not you're able to solve a problem.
Definitely.
If you're able to solve a problem and you don't have all those funny acronyms by your name, with all due respect to all those people who have these titles, right? But yeah, once you cannot solve a problem, irrespective of how many of those certifications you have, I don't think this marketplace would be a very good one for you. Well, moving on, let me get back to you now. So, from your point of view, managing insider threat is really hard, which is I truly understand. We are very humans have emotions are like machines. From a threat intelligence and risk management point, what do you advise others to do in order to capture these threats before they actually happen?
You're right. So for those of us who are wondering what an insider threat is, I think it's self-explanatory. An employee in an organization and a company that how did Isaac put it? Cyber bad boy, a bad boy in it. So that is just basically it. You are in there, but you have malicious intent. So how does this play? How do you detect such things? I think these are one of the foundation, one of the quick go-tos in cybersecurity. So before every employee gets hired, first of all, they usually don't. You need to start. Your threat intelligence needs to start not after you've hired this person. Say, for example, you need to have definitely done your research before. Let's say I'm applying for a particular company XYZ. You don't need me to get on board first before you start doing your due diligence. You need your due diligence. You need to have done a background check on me. And that is where it starts. Before, not after. Now, after a background check has been done on me, which is very, very allowed because you have to give, and of course, the company has to ask consent and say, look, we're going to do background checks on you because of over here, I do know about the Privacy Act, Cyber Security Act that was passed in Kenya. I've not gone through all of it yet, but over here, they take GDPR very, very seriously. You cannot get someone's data just like that, and you control your data, whatever data it is you want. So definitely as individuals, there's some information we want to keep private, but you see, and then there's those information which are out there, which does not really pry like deeply into your life, and you have to give, you have to be able to identify, you need to collect data that is required for what it is you need. So when you're getting into a company, when someone is getting into a company, for like I said earlier, you need to have done your background checks on this person, and after that, still have consent to do periodic checkup on these people, because anything could have happened from when they got in and after they got in, or before they got in and after they got in. Sorry. So you need to do periodic checkup on employee. monitored social media activities. People don't actually understand the importance of social media. Social media is really, really big, and you can actually get so much. Like sometimes when I do penetration testing for a client, you can actually be surprised at how much information you can get from even from IT administrators on their online profile, on their Facebook pages. You get some, in fact, you don't even need to do any scan on the network because you just go there and you see somebody writing, I had a very, very bad day today. Windows Server 2008 was not patched, and yeah, all this information. Basically, you have
Very
it.
generous.
Exactly. So, but back to the normal, back to the normal employee who doesn't know about Windows Server 2012 or at all. He has no, all he knows is Windows 10 or Windows 8. So they still post this information online, and excuse me, and definitely you might see it. One might see it as, oh, they just posted information about what operating system they use, and maybe this IT department here, they've made me so angry today because my McAfee antivirus decided to hang, or decided I don't even have an antivirus on my laptop, on my desktop. That is another hint. So you would not see it as an insider threat, but that also is an insider threat because he's giving out information out there to somebody else who might use that information to exploit your systems. So he still falls. I mean, he's not a direct threat, but he still falls as an insider threat because he's giving out this information out there without really knowing. So you need to monitor social media accounts of your employees to know what's going on and how, especially right now. In fact, right now, people are really, really cautious on what they post online. I mean, this is not related.
As you go about that, do you need the consent, or do you sign an agreement with these guys whose accounts you're going to monitor? Do you
Well,
put it in the employment contract? How do you go, or do you do this stealthily? Because then again, somebody can decide to create a secret account and go about their business.
Good question, Jerome. So basically, the good thing about social media account is it's open to everybody. So once it's out there, it's a public information. It's like an open source. It's an open source information, open intelligence information. Just go out there. You're not asking for. It's like saying, we're having this webinar right now, and Isaac could decide, hey, let me know more about this guy. And he goes on my LinkedIn profile. You see, he's not asked for my consent to go on my LinkedIn profile. He's just gone there, and whatever he sees, he can use. He doesn't need to ask my consent. So likewise, social media is provided, and you see now you can actually lock your, you can actually protect people from accessing your social media content by putting your account in private. So only friends who you've accepted invites, of people who you've accepted invite, can view your activity. That is one way of keeping yourself, your data, your information private, your activities private. But if you do not do that, it means, hey, everybody, come on board and see what's going on in my life. You understand? So that is, so companies also should also enhance the social media activities of the employees if their accounts are not locked. You understand? It means, yes, you can do what you can get this information. That is second point. The third point is, of course, we're all humans, and sometimes things just happen. And sometimes someone could just tell you, hey, I'm going to give you this amount of money to do ABC. And let me ask you, for example, Jerome, you're taking home 30,000 shillings per month. And someone tells you, look, all you have to do is plug in this USB in your computer, and I'll give you, let me don't go, because if you're any 30,000 a company and they're going to give you 400,000, what are you doing? It means something is wrong. But they're going to give you a whole lot of money for just to plug in a USB. I mean, it's a good deal. It's a sweet deal. You'd want to take it. But of course,
Run for it.
when you get in there, if you have a proper threat intelligence system, it should be able to start detect unusual patterns. Like, this person is plugging in these devices. Of course, you definitely should have your own controls in play, your plug and play device controls policies in play. Do you allow plug and play, or don't you allow plug and play? You understand? So basically, you need to monitor patterns of your employees. Is he coming in at a later time? Is he smiling more? Is he not smiling more? What's going on? All these things are just more information you can get. Their stress level. Are they focused in the office? Are they distracted? Because distraction also could be an underlying cause to something else. And of course, when you're stressed, or your kid is sick, or something is going on in your family, or something is just going on with you, this creates an opportunity for someone out there, for a malicious attacker, to exploit this weakness from you. That's a human weakness, to exploit it and cause damage to this company. You understand? And also monitor for unusual network activity. Like I had mentioned previously about the AU and the data and leaving their data centers at about 2 a.m. in the morning. You understand? If this was detected on time, I mean, who would be doing, would be using the network at about 2 a.m. in the morning? No one. And even if someone is using it, probably the IT, maybe the IT team, maybe they're doing some kind of updates on servers or something. But it should, but the amount of data or the network activity should be very, very low. So definitely it means something is going on. It means someone, I think there was a particular case study at some point whereby some guy, an employee of a company, set up a gaming server using the company's resources. So after the whole employees leave, after everyone leaves the company, he had a server in the company that actually hosted game, this some kind of illegal gaming activity. It was later on detected by the IT team because they saw a lot of network spike at later, like from 8 o'clock at night down to 4 a.m. in the morning. You understand? So basically, monitor for unusual network activities at different times. It doesn't have to be when the employees are working. That is when you monitor it. It should be an ongoing, a continuous process. So that is how. Those are some of the steps I'd actually say you can actually manage your insider threats. I mean, I know that there are much more out there, but this is just a brief overview because this topic of threat intelligence and risk management is a full course on its own. Correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but it's a full course on its own, and you cannot cover everything in this webinar. But these are the ways you can actually manage your insider threat to make sure. I mean, just keep everybody on his stand. I mean, I'm not one too big on ruling with an iron rod, but I believe we've all seen this thing. Here we keep everyone in place. When I say that, I don't mean that literally, but I do mean by if you have your cameras in place or surveillance camera in place, of course, when you're coming to a company, I know there's surveillance camera. If you don't like it, don't take up the offer. If you like it, take up the offer. I mean, if you're genuinely clean, I don't think a camera should affect your daily life or your daily activity. You understand? So basically, you're putting up all these devices and infrastructure, you get to monitor what people are doing and be able to look for suspecting or unusual patterns to carry out your threat intelligence.
Great. Thank you very much, Nanta, for your deliberations. That has gone a long way in even proposing the solutions to the several challenges that we face with respect to areas around risk and threat intelligence. But I don't want to let it pass me by. And I want to ask Isaac to point out top level. Across Kenya and Africa generally, do you think we're okay in the way we handle cyber risks? How are we standing? And as you respond to that, I have an interesting screen that I'm sharing. As you tell us, we shall be seeing some live feeds about what you're going to tell us. So please, how do you think we're doing as Africa as a whole? Because right on the screen, you can see how Kenya is faring. And this is open source information. I've not hacked you guys. So, so yes,
okay,
tell us.
Thank you, Jerome. I think as maybe as might have been pointed earlier, we might be playing catch up, but I think we haven't done enough, and there can never be enough to be done, because in matters threat intelligence, the risk exposure, or rather the portfolios keep on changing. I remember these cyber bad boys, as we decided to call them today, they're always a step ahead, because they're always working against what has already been built. So in Africa, I can say there's a lot to be done. Maybe first of all, because we might not be maybe at the level where the first world countries are in, because for them, I think the cyberspace has been developed. They took up technology earlier than the African countries, but in more recent years, we've seen some countries actually get to the level of those. In Kenya, I think I've seen that we could be leading in some aspects of technology take-up, which means that most
Of course. I mean, I would have your boss question you if you didn't mention that.
yes. So we are leading in quite a number of aspects. So which means that we are increasingly relying on the Internet of Things, or rather, we are connected to the world, and the world is where cyber risk is coming from. So more often than not, we found companies or businesses do what we call just reactive. We only respond. We do not do cyber risk management proactively. And until when cyber risk management is taken up as a proactive initiative, then we can never say that we are doing enough.
Great. Thank you for those insights. I want to assume that people have a view of my screen. This is what I see people whenever I'm carrying out training. Well, yeah, thank you. And like you mentioned, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. And I think I see very few banking trojans hitting at you guys. So I think the financial sector is not doing badly. Kudos to Lisa and Budges and the rest of the guys. Okay, so as we come closer to the end, I want to remind you guys also, and people who are listening in, that this is the cybersecurity awareness. So please look out for a lot of information on the internet. Visit, I see Lisa shared my profile link. Visit Milima Security, Milima Technologies on the internet, on the web, their websites. On the socials, we'll be sharing a lot of information. We have a couple of webinars coming through in conjunction also with Yellow Bridges, just to tell people more about security, and just to make people more, aware, yeah, about what's going on. It's been a very wonderful experience sharing with these two gentlemen. And just to pick on my last question for Mr. Nonso, because you've iterated a lot about how might we better position ourselves as humans, and how do we deal with things like the insider threats and all of that, which means just the people aspect. So very briefly, before we just step into the poll, Mr. Nonso, how would one justify to management the need for risk management and threat intelligence solutions? Yeah, I mean threat intelligence solutions, or to create departments that actually show return on investment. How might I, as an expert, make sense to the board, yeah, or to the owners of a company about what I'm talking about when I speak of risk management and threat intelligence? To give them a buy-in, but most importantly, as business leaders, to show them that there is actually a proper return on investment. If you could just start to me very briefly as I post the poll question. Over to you, Nancy.
Okay, Jerome, I'm going to take you back. I did not quite get your question, like you're not so clear.
Okay, my question was, how might an expert, or let's say a risk manager, or someone in charge of cybersecurity, propose to management with clear justification that they need to take up risk management and threat intelligence solutions, certain solutions that might be out there in the market? How might they better justify this and convince them to create even departments to actually show a return on investment for the company?
Okay, and you had mentioned it should be as brief as possible.
Yes, yeah, as briefly as possible, because we're going into, I'm sharing the poll question right now. So as you answer that, I'd invite the participants to take a look at the poll and respond. Yeah.
Well, one thing management understands very well is finances and reputation. Show them how that will negatively impact them. Show them how much financial loss they will have, or that they will have, and show them, look, this is what also, okay, I've talked about reputation, I've talked about financial loss. Yeah, these two actually. Just tell them, look, this is what that's going to happen to us if such a thing happens to us. Definitely management listens to those two parts and those two things. And should they not listen to it, you need to, that is where your negotiating skills comes into play. You need to show them case studies, you need to show them things that are happening globally and how it actually affected these other companies. You see, because we cannot definitely say it starts from the bottom. It always has to start from the top. So for you to actually have a proper, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to give them a proper reason with examples and real life cases, not just theory and your ideas, with what's happening globally right now. We need to actually show them that, look, with all the things that's happening, if we do not protect ourselves, we will fall also in the same trap. And what are some of the things we have to do? I mean, beef up our security, most importantly, have a company culture on information, on cybersecurity. Have that company culture. I mean, you posted, I think you've changed the screen. You posted that infograph on attacks from multiple places, and I'm seeing Europe leading and China going somewhere as well. And sometimes these attacks don't actually necessarily originate from these countries because, of course, being an attacker, a bad person, or not a bad person, but just a malicious attacker, you do not use your original source to attack. You, of course, you spoof your IP from somewhere else and you attack. You understand? But at least that is also a good infographic to show them and look at all the attacks that is going on every day, and it's only a matter of time before we get hit. And then propose your solutions to them. Sometimes management will tell you we do not have the budget for it. My recommendation is come up. Cybersecurity is not cheap. If you get a cheap solution, well, you know the answer to that. You don't know what's going to happen. But it's still better than doing nothing. You start off as cheap as possible, and you keep showing them reports of what. That's if they are not into it. You keep showing them reports of, this is what could have happened if I had not done ABC. But then you keep showing them results and statistics and stats. Trusting me, they will buy into the idea, and they will give you the required funding to carry out your security. What's it called? They will give you the support which you need
to get the solutions.
Yes, thank you.
To get the solutions. Thank you very much, Nonso, for making that very clear. In my experience, I've gone as far as making very affordable trainings for the board level executives, just to give these people a tip of the iceberg. Although the flip side, some people have encouraged me rigorously in the quest of business, offer solutions for companies, and told me to, hey, just go ahead and hack these guys and let them see. Of course, that's not ethical, and that's not what we do as professionals. So yeah, there's a lot that really needs to be done because of the very low levels of awareness. And I'll reiterate this. Guys, it is the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. There's a lot of information out there. Learn something. Take on a very short course. Come to Milima Cyber Academy, learn something. I mean, there is a lot of information that we need to learn about security. Security is a very big and versatile field. And I think we can, the only end to the whole journey is when we are far. I mean, when we time out of the world, but otherwise we just need to continue learning. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your deliberations and for answering my very interesting questions. Hopefully, it's been insightful to everybody. I want to invite Lisa, who's going to take us through the poll, and then we'll close this in the next less than 5 minutes. Lisa.
So thank you, Jerome. Are you able to put out the question?
Yes.
Please bring back the question. And what's the answers to?
So the poll.
How are we looking like?
Okay. So. You see the results?
Great. Thank you for sharing this. So I think, Jerome, you may just need to answer 2 more questions from the chat section, just as we finalize on this and as we wrap up. But over and above this, this has really been a very interactive session, and it's quite interesting to hear to hear a lot of information with regards to threat intelligence. I tend to feel that this is a topic that not so many people are conversant with, and a lot of people seem to be, or rather, a lot of people seem to shy off from artificial intelligence and threat intelligence just in general as an overview. So thank you, Isaac, for just sharing your insights and taking us thoroughly through what threat intelligence is all about and how it ties down to risk analysis and so on. Nonso, as well, thank you so much. I know this was not so easy because I'm looking at just how you've been able to bring out your expertise in the field of security. This also means that you've been able to learn a thing or two about threat intelligence, which ultimately marries, we are both able to marry the two topics. So thank you very much. So I'll let you, Jerome, throw in the question to the panelists, and then we can wrap up the webinar.
Great, thanks, Lisa. And yeah, it feels good to know that it's just not a male affair, huh? I was
Yeah, of
interacting
course.
with somebody yesterday, and they're very sad and concerned at how women are not participating. So it's good to have you, Lisa, on this panel as well. Well, I'll
We
delve
actually
straight
have a
into
lot
the
of women that
questions.
participate.
I know I'm talking about the panelists. Oh, okay.
Let's go. Go ahead.
Let's get a question. How do you determine which operational indicator of compromise IOC feeds are most valuable? Do you measure their success? I would start by directing this to Isaac directly, just to give us very briefly insights to this question from Kelvin Saitoti. Isaac.
Okay, Jerome. First of all, the most basic, or rather the standard way of uh, um, risk management process, because ideally this is what it would be. You need to identify all the operational indicators that you need, or rather, then based on the nature of your business or the risk that you're looking at, you need to rank these indicators from maybe the most valuable to the last valuable, or the ones that has the biggest risk rating all the way to the last one. Then once you do that, then that gives you the, or it gives you a basis for giving priority, rather allocating either priority to or urgency to whichever one ranks the most. I hope that gives the. So how do you measure their success? Again, there can never be, or rather, you can never manage cyber risk without monitoring. So over a period of time, you need to ask yourself on a continuous basis, where are you exposed? Out of what you've prioritized, based on your universe or other operational indicators, are you reducing the exposure? Are you over a period of time, say just based on your type of business or other whatever operations that you're in, over a period of time, are you seeing any change, whether a reduction in the levels of risk and all that? And sometimes you can just do even benchmarking just to determine your success. You can either benchmark with industry peers or other organizations that are doing well, or that are market leaders in terms of threat management. Or you can also engage a specialist like Donzo here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Isaac. And just before you time out, I'd like you to just give us one tip that someone should take away from today very briefly as you give us a final parting shot. Just one very brief tip for anybody out there who is putting their eyes very bravely on risk management. What is that final tip that you want to share for the attendees of this webinar?
Well, risk management is, or rather, what many people would call enterprise risk management. And the enterprise risk management cannot be operated in silos from cyber risk management. So they need cyber risk management needs to be part of the enterprise-wide risk management. So the enterprise risk management should be able to address risks related to cyber risk management, and part of the risk mitigation strategies should be issues to do with threat intelligence. And that way you're able to determine or to know that you're getting closer to addressing or to mitigating risks to reasonable levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. It's been a pleasure hosting you and asking you a couple of questions. And I'm sure people out here have profited from your valuable insights. There goes Mr. Isaac. He is a risk professional currently with the Madison Group in Kenya, or Nairobi in Kenya. And over to you, Mr. Nonso. What is that one key take-home package that you want to give people in this webinar right about now? Very briefly, what is that key takeaway you'd give us with respect to threat intelligence as we wrap this up?
All right, so I'm going to toss the question back to you. Are you looking at threat intelligence from a company's culture's perspective or from an individual's perspective?
Because we are individuals attending this webinar, just give it to the individual. They will later on go and implement it probably, or help themselves up with that.
All right, so my hands are pretty full at the moment, so I'll just give you a very quick answer. Know what information you have out there. You know, because this information basically always comes back to you, and this information basically helps a lot of companies, you know, gather more things than you know about than even you yourself you know about yourself. So just know what it is you put out there, and monitor your whole accounts, and just do as much as possible to stay safe online.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nonso, a cybersecurity expert. You have an interesting profile because there you are freelancing in Germany, you have a business, a baby business. Oh, I don't mean to call it young, but an interesting business, a cybersecurity company also in Kenya. And yeah, it's been a pleasure hosting you and Mr. Isaac. And I personally have learned a lot from the both of you. And I'm very sure the same experience has been with the attendees of the webinar. And once again, thank you, Lisa and Yale Bridges, for hosting us to this very insightful webinar. And I believe it's been a lot of value for all of